Everybody, so it's your favorite Black single mother here, the millennial introvert, and today I wanted to talk about relationships, legacy, lineage, wealth building, generational wealth, all that good stuff.
Very, very, very happy that many African sisters have spoken up against that 50-50 bull crap that some men here in the United States that they live by. Many women and men in the United States, they do 50-50, which honestly, no true passport, bro, is doing that 50-50 thing. If you're traveling overseas looking for a wife in particular, then typically you know that you're going to take care of that woman.
Okay, as a certified African Niger babe, I'm gonna tell you why. So, disclaimer for me, I don't have any preference as long as I meet somebody that I vibe with, that loves me and has everything, I'm good to go. But number one, we like somebody that we can relate with. Like, I joke with you, I give you a sign, you know what I'm talking about. A lot of Black Americans cannot relate to us because of different backgrounds, which is understandable. But two, and the most important thing, main thing is that us African girls, we're used to being taken care of by our men. Like, the men do everything, they take care of us, we don't have to worry about money. But a lot of Black Americans feel that we have to go 50-50 on things, like the woman and men has to share equally. But that's not how we're brought up. We weren't raised like that, so we're not used to that lifestyle. So we have to go for people who understand how things work here. Sorry.
Hey fam, so today we will be talking about passport bros, African women rejecting passport bros. The African lady are rejecting and denouncing the passport bros because they said they have a huge cultural and traditional differences. They said these passport bros cannot meet up their cultural and traditional expectations. They're not up to par. The African women are also saying that they are not open to the 50-50 splitting of bills. They are used to their men taking care of them 100% and they doubt if the passport bros can do that. I have a couple of videos to share on this. The video coming up next has to do with a woman speaking on behalf of the Black American women. There was a video made by a Black American man tearing down Black American women and uplifting Eastern African women. Just because I don't want to trigger anyone, so I chose not to play the video, but I will be playing the video of the woman reacting and debunking some of the points he raised.
And this is the problem that some of us have with the Black American passport bros. You can definitely have your preference without bringing down African American women. You can have your preference. East African women can definitely be your preference, but you do not need to compare them with African American women and bring down African American women or Black American women. One of the key elements or variables that most of you forget when you're making this comparison is the social-cultural context, all right? These women are the way they are because of the men in their society. African-American women are the way they are because of what? The men in their society. Most of you are 50-50 men. African men are raised with the mindset to be providers. And that is not the same mindset that most African American men have. Beyond provision, African men believe in lineage and continuity of the family name. And these are the reasons why they tend to get married and often would do well being the man of the house. Most of you African American men do not have that concept of extending your lineage and your family name. And you talk about the element of respect and how East African women respect their elders and respect men. You need to conduct yourself in a manner that deserves respect. Do African American men carry themselves deserving of respect? That is a question for you to answer. Respect is not given, it is earned. So if you want to get respect from your women, conduct yourself as such. How many of you are sexually disciplined? How many of you are providers? How many of you have emotional intelligence? How many of you claim a pregnancy when a woman tells you that you got her pregnant and you go ahead, follow through, support her, and name the child to ensure that you are laying claims to your lineage and ensuring that your family name continues? These are the things. So before you make these comparisons, remember, African American men and women are a product of their own society. And East African women are also a reflection of their own society and how the men in those society operate and move. My name is Dr. Zita. I am a sociologist. Dear Black Passport Bros, please stop the comparison, go for your preference in peace, and stop disrespecting your own women. That is simply unattractive, and for me, as a West African woman, I would not deal with any man who disrespect his own women just to elevate me. Guess what, guys? Hit the follow button.
So I ran across this video when I just jumped into my YouTube app, and I had to make a video about this video because this is what this is how I've been conditioned. Like, I'm not, I'm of African descent, of course, because I'm African American, because I'm African American, but I'm not African. Like, I'm not first generation African or anything like that. Like, my family has been in America for centuries. So we all know the history. We came from Africa as they enslaved us, our tribes, our people, and so now we're African Americans. So the reason why I'm going into that spiel is to explain, like, why, even though that's the case for me, for some reason, I don't know if it's because my family was very religious, but my upbringing was more aligned with how African culture, like how they state in this video that their upbringing is like. You don't have to pay like a bride price, but my family expected us to marry well. And they always taught us, because of the Bible, that men are protectors and providers. So I guess because of how religious our family was, we just followed the Bible. And so that's what I grew up seeing. So my grandmother, when I was staying with her as a little girl, my grandfather worked. He actually had 2 jobs. He had his own cab company, and then he also drove a like candy van. It was kind of like an ice cream truck, but he sold like candy, cookies, snacks, things like that, and would go around, the neighborhoods and sell that. So he was an entrepreneur, and he had 2 businesses essentially. But I never saw my grandmother work a day in her life. Like, she would sell pies through the church, because people loved her sweet potato pie. She was a missionary. She would go from house to house and take food to like the sick and shut in, like the elderly. But she never had a job like all the years that I lived with her. And I'm pretty sure she didn't when my sister lived with her either. And she lived with her for 7 years. I lived with her for 3.
So I've gotten a lot of comments on my video asking why African women do not really date African American guys. And I can't speak for a whole continent. I can't speak for a whole country, but I know that some of my close friends have dated African American guys in the past. But I think one of the reasons is that African American culture and African culture are completely different. So the African guys are usually like super sweet and want to take care of their women. Like, they don't go 50-50. So if they're dating you, they'll spoil you, buy you whatever you want to buy, never doing 50-50, even if you have a job, but it's up to the woman to reciprocate. But I don't think that's really the same for African American guys, because like, the American culture is completely different. So like, they would want to go 50-50. I've also seen that a lot of Africans would date white men, because white men like literally worship African women. The ones that they date, obviously, they worship them and they're so romantic. So they either go African or they go white. That's what I've seen.
Let's read some comments. I'm African, and honestly, I grew up seeing my dad doing it all. He figured everything out without complaining. I make my own money, but around the men in my family, I pay nothing. This is how we are brought up. Thank you for addressing.
One thing I have realized as an American woman, since I stopped dating American men and I started dating African men, more so Nigerian men, is we as women were and are settling for the bare minimum with American men. Example, Nigerian men, African men, whatever. They will bow down to your feet, literally. They will not watch you struggle. They know how to take care of home. They know how to respect their marriage, in a sense. And I love American men. Don't get me wrong. I'm American myself. But I feel like our men weren't raised to... A lot of us grew up in broken homes. So it's just normal in America for our men not to know, how to treat their women or how to love properly or just how to be masculine in a sense. Like, So this is your sign to stop dating men and settling for men because that is your type. Try something different. I started dating African men a few years ago. I will never look back.
So, I saw a video today on TikTok of this young man, African American, saying how he wants to go to Africa to find a wife. And he said all this after watching Tyler, our beautiful sister from South Africa. And he's like, you know what? That's it. We just need to go to Africa to find wives. Audacity. Anyway, me being African, I was raised in Africa and I was also raised in the United States. So I have experience from both continents, okay? And let me tell you something. If you are an American man who thinks that going outside of the United States is where you will find a good woman, a good wife, because American women ask for too much. The ladies out here, man, they're just materialistic. Let me tell you something. It is worse. It is 1,000 times worse than what you think back home in Africa. At least for the country that I was raised in and the culture that I was raised in. Because here's the thing. African women, African young girls, we are raised to literally know that the man is the provider. In fact, a lot of African women don't even go to work. Their men are the ones who go to work and just bring the money home for the wife to budget. And if you think the women here in America are asking for too much, in fact, go to Africa. No, go get married. Because the way African young girls are raised, we are raised with so much knowledge about family, friendship, how to deal with lives. So when families in Africa see that their daughters have gone through so much learning and they have become knowledgeable of life and marriage and all those things, they know the value of their daughters. And they say, you know what? Any man cannot come and marry our daughter for free. He has to pay a dowry. And that's why majority of African cultures, before a man goes to take the daughter to marry a woman, he has to pay the family a dowry. An appreciation. And dowry can go from money to cows and goats to even building the girl's family a house. Yes, and it's all to show appreciation to the family of the girl that thank you so much for raising such a beautiful and wonderful woman who's gonna be the mother of my kids. So, the system works differently. The United States, after living here for almost 10 years, I've realized that here, men just take for free. And I know this might be triggering and or insulting some people, but it's the truth. Men in the United States are used to taking things for free, especially from women. They expect, well, I'm just gonna go date her, have sex with her here and there and use her, and then we'll just be in a relationship. It does not work like that in Africa. It is worse. You cannot take someone's daughter for free like that. You have to impress her and the family, most importantly. And in some cultures, like my own, if you have not proven yourself as a man that you have the resources to take care of someone's daughter, guess what? Even the family has the right to take you to court, to police, and say, we brought this man, he wants to take our daughter for free. Or if you've already taken the daughter without paying the family a dowry, they can say, he stole our daughter from us without any appreciation. And guess who is gonna win the case? The family of the girl. So to any American man or any man worldwide who wants to marry a woman in Africa, use your common sense. You have to be very, very strong in your masculinity to know that I do not expect my wife to work if she doesn't want to. She can or she cannot. My position as the man in her life will not change whether she works or not. My position is to provide for her. So my brother, You want to go to Africa to find a wife because they're much more nicer. Let me tell you, they come with the most costly. How do I say this? And this is not like a selling your daughter type of thing. No, the families are not exchanging their children for money and possessions. No, it's simply the man giving to the girl's family in appreciation of receiving a wife. He who finds a wife finds a what? A good thing. Yes. So if you're an American man, because that's all I've seen, and you're used to taking things for free, don't go to Africa. Don't. You will be hunted down like a criminal for stealing someone's daughter. Nonsense.
Trying to date an African woman is worth because of what you have to prove. It's just the fact that the people in her country are still culturally intact, meaning that there is a cultural disconnect in America, especially in the realm of relationships. For lack of a better word or lack of a better term, a lot of us in America are brainwashed, okay? A lot of us are brainwashed and we are living backwards. We think certain things are supposed to be certain way, but we have no real culture and value and no real bottom line. We don't have real community. Some people have created their communities, but as a whole, we don't have real community and we don't take family.
So I wanted to pause right there. Black Americans do have culture. I think we somehow got into this thing where other groups or ethnicities of people will come to America and say we don't have any culture. People are using that in a different definition. So here's one of the definitions of culture. It says a complex concept that encompasses the values, beliefs, and behaviors of a society or a social group. So Black Americans do have that. We have a ton of culture. I feel like our culture is basically the American culture, and it has went globally across the world. So we definitely have culture. It's just that we don't have a a good culture. We don't have a good culture when it comes to family. We don't understand lineage, generational wealth, legacy. I know for me, I was never raised to think about any of those things. I didn't know what those things were and did not even really learn about it until I was a grown woman and already had 2 kids. And then I had to I felt like I was coming from behind, like I was coming behind the 8 ball trying to catch up, because by the time I found out about the things that everyone should know from the beginning to start a family and have a strong foundation, I was already a single mom. I think I had gotten a divorce and had 2 kids, and I was a single mother with the 2 kids. And it's like, if I would have known, if my family would have known to these things, then they would have taught me these things. And then I would have chosen everything differently. I would have looked for a husband with certain things. I would have known how to be in the marriage a certain way. He would have been able to do it a certain way, because we would have basically, I would have chose someone who would have those same values. And I'm not saying that the man I was with didn't, but we were young and we didn't know neither one of us knew what we were doing. We didn't know anything about legacy and all of that. We didn't talk about it. It wasn't something we were working towards, nothing. We were just doing the best we could to raise great kids to go into society. So we weren't sitting here being hood rats or anything, but we weren't necessarily working towards a specific goal. And I feel like other countries, because they were not enslaved, taken from their villages and enslaved, they are able to keep their traditions and their culture, overall culture, intact. They're able to pass down the traditions, which is part of it would be creating that legacy. They're able to pass down the generational wealth because they were able to stay in one place and not be so nomadic, being moved from one place, being separated from your family, having your family separated, which is what happened with African Americans during slavery. But at this point in time, in 2024, I think it's getting beyond old to keep blaming slavery. Yes, slavery happened. Yes, it was obviously it was awful, and we're still working to get reparations. But aside from that, if I can learn what legacy is and generational wealth and lineage, and learn what those things should mean for a Black family or for my family, I think every Black person at this point can figure that out. There's nothing stopping us from creating those things for our families, so we don't have an excuse anymore. And I think at the end of the day, like for me, when I wake up every morning, it's like I need to just do better than I did yesterday. And I think that that's the mentality that our Black American group has to have overall that we don't have. Everyone's just kind of trying to keep up with the Joneses, trying to compete with the next person next to them, trying to fit somewhere comfortably in white supremacy, like trying to see where they can fit, trying to get at the table with white people or Asian people or Hispanic people. Like case in point, Reese talking about the Latinos. And I'm like, if Reese wants a community like the Latinos, then why don't you build that community like the Latino men did? Because all the men in every other race and ethnicity, they create those communities for their people, their women, other men, the children, all of that. Black males don't do that. They just want to run and, like Cynthia G would say, nest in white communities, nest in Asian communities. Now they want to be Latino, and I feel like Kyrie said that one, he's in California, so it's a very high Latino population over there, and then two, there's so many Latinos coming across the border, so I guess he's just like, I'm just going to go get, merge myself into another community. And it's never any kind of manhood happening where it's like, let me build a Black community. And that's why I refuse to really call our community a Black community, because I don't think we have, I feel like we don't have one. If we do, is ghetto, as I don't know what, is raggedy. And I feel like we have a lot of work to do. If you don't own anything in that community, like you should own the churches, the banks, the schools, like everything should be ran for you, by you. If you go into another community, you're going to see everything in their language, all their food, all their stuff from their culture is going to be there. With us, it's like we have things that's our culture, but is owned by other people that came to our community, and they take their money and take it back to their own communities and put their kids into Harvard and Yale and wherever they want to take them. And it's just annoying, because I feel like Black people refuse to understand what Black Americans specifically refuse to understand what the overall end game should be, what our goal should be. And because we don't understand that, we so easily see people like a Kobe Bryant or a Chad Boseman. Actually, I think is white. I don't know what color she is, but we continually see over and over and over wealthy Black males leaving their money to women who are not Black. That is the complete opposite of building generational wealth, legacy, lineage, like keeping all that intact. And of course, you can say, yes, I'm doing that. But at the end of the day, it's jumping. So now your lineage just kind of changed colors, so to speak. Because if your child marries a white person or something else later down the line, like you're going to be basically weeding, you're essentially diluting yourself as a Black person every time you add in another group, because most of the like every other group is lighter than us. They're of lighter races. So if you add in other groups, and I'm not saying anything is wrong with dating out, interracial dating, whatever, you can do that, and you can still build your lineage and your generational wealth and so on and so forth. But I think where the real problem lies is that Black American males and Black American women do not like each other. So there's this big fracturing there. And it's like, it's okay to keep your options open and date outside your race, but to sit here and run an entire decades long campaign talking crap about the women in your own subgroup of this country is just abhorrently disgusting. And there's no pride there whatsoever. There's nothing cute about it, like in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know how Black males do not come down harder on other Black males, because it's like they're making you all look bad. Like I had to tell my sons, be prepared when you go into the world, like the crap you're going to be dealing with because of the men before you. They totally just shot you all's reputation to hell. Like it's just raggedy. They're seen as cowards. They're seen as, vindictive, kind of like female. They have attitudes. They're violent. Like it's not a good look in any way, shape, or form. And it sucks because my kids are younger and they're going to grow into manhood and they have to get sucked into this crap, stereotype that they didn't have any control over, and it's like the same with Black women. But I feel like with Black women, like we are always striving to be better. I think the main issue with Black women is that we seem to kind of divide where it comes to the ones who have a loyalty to Black males at all costs, no matter how much they're destroying our lives and our communities. And then we have the ones who are like completely divested. And then we might have the ones who are like in the middle somewhere. So it's like those three groups just don't seem to really be working well together, because our different interests are not aligned either. So you have the ones who are loyal to black males, they will do anything to get some black male attention. So they'll be online talking crap about other black women or trying to say like, oh, I'm not like her or this, that, and the other. Those are the ones we call the pick me's and the mammies. Then you have the ones who completely divested. And so the other groups of black women hate them because they're like, you're a sellout, you're going off with Brad, yada, yada, yada. Then you have the ones that are somewhere in the middle who are kind of like looking at this. And then we still have our own different wars because it's like, I'm married, but you're single. I'm a wife, or I'm, with the mother as a mother, but you're a baby mama, or I'm living a lux life. I don't have to work. And then, but you do have to work. It's like it's just a constant comparison, the constant comparing of lifestyles that's just completely unnecessary. It doesn't matter. Like none of it matters. And so when you look at your family as a whole, no matter what race of person you've married or whatever, the end of the day is that we do as Black Americans have culture. We have hip hop culture, we have our food, the soul food, we have our, the clothes we wear. And overall, I think mostly our culture is seen as being like hip hop type rap culture, like they call like urban, I guess. But we have like a lot of other cultures too, as Black Americans, that they don't really promote much on TV because it makes Black Americans look and be seen in a positive light. But I think I want to say I just recently really realized that obviously everyone says Black people are not a monolith because we're not. And so in saying that, it's like we have the anime, like the culture of the people who are like into anime, Comic Con, kind of more eclectic, I guess you would say, like they're gamers, nerds, so on and so forth. And then we have the Black people who are very educated, like the boule, and they go to college, they've been to the HBCUs, they're in the government, they're politicians. And then you have the Black people who are hip hop and urban and more street. So even like, and then you have like suburbia. You have the Black people from the suburbs who are, soccer moms, soccer dads. They're with their kid. They're all about family and spending the weekends cutting their grass or whatever. So it's like we don't get that representation enough on TV or on the internet because, of course, to me nowadays, I'm like the internet is the TV for most people. We don't even watch regular TV anymore. People stream or they're on YouTube or they're on social media. So I kind of use those things interchangeably in my video. When I say TV, I could really be meaning internet, etc., and vice versa. So people like don't really show Black people represented in a lot of different ways. I feel like just recently, we probably last decade or so, we probably started to try to show more different types of Black people. Because I remember in the 80s and the 90s, I used to hate watching Black movies because they were always just like really ghetto, like, oh, we're all in the hood. And it's not that I have anything against people who are from the hood. I just felt like that's not we're not being perceived properly. It's not fair how they're perceiving us. And I guess like I felt like I couldn't relate to it because I grew up in the suburbs. So I just felt like, why do they keep showing me as a Black girl or Black woman looking like that or doing these ratchet things when I don't do those things? Or like even with the music, the Black rap, gangster rap music, I refuse to listen to it because I'm like, I don't relate to this. And I just think it's like very violent. It's not good. It's not positive. Why am I listening to that as a teenage Black girl in the suburbs? And so I was actually listening to classical music. My dad took me to see Fiddler on the Roof. It's like this play, and that never left me, like that experience. I was listening to a lot of alternative music, pop. I was just a typical Black American girl. So it wasn't. It just wasn't. I just felt like a lot of times I didn't find myself to be really represented. We were either very rich on TV, like they would have, Fresh Prince of Bel Air. So they were very wealthy Black people, or they were like very poor and in the hood, and there was no like regular Black people who just lived in the suburbs. Their kids ride their bikes and play outside until the lights came on. And that really didn't, I feel like that subgroup like really didn't come about until like more recently, where you start to see more of like the gamer Black kids, the nerdy Black kids, the Black children who are just growing up with the typical American dream type life. Like we have a house in the suburbs, the white picket fence. You're just coming of age in the some, with your friends in your neighborhood, and there's really not a whole lot going on. It's just suburbia, So to say that we don't have culture as Black Americans, I find it to be extremely offensive, and I don't think people mean it that way all the time. I think they mean it in a different way, like, oh, they don't have a good culture, I guess they could call it, or they don't feel like we have a culture that's more intact, that's very united or fluid. It's just like, we're just kind of like, everyone's very individualistic, but even in that case, that's still a type of culture. Like, individualism is a culture. Whether you're all narcissistic and you have a narcissistic culture, that's still a culture, because essentially it's just like this definition said, it's just a concept that encompasses values, beliefs, and behaviors of a society or a social group. So that really could be any type of collective ideologies that you all hold together. And I feel for Black people, our collective ideology, honestly, I think is more individualism. Like, everyone just tries to think they can do their own thing. People, I think that's part of why people put down Black males put down Black women, because they don't see themselves as being in the same group as us. They have separated themselves, like, I'm doing my own thing, and they act like their actions don't impact Black women and Black children, and other Black men. Like I said, my sons are going to grow up and have to take on the bad negative stereotype that their quote unquote elders have created for them, and it's awful, because their fathers and I are not raising them to be these types of guys, and I hate that my sons have to walk around with that negative stereotype attached to them. And it's same as being a Black girl or Black woman. When I was going to work, we already had a stereotype that we had to, like, disprove in the workplace or different places, to show, like, I'm not ratchet, I'm not cussing everyone out everywhere, I know how to give good customer service, I'm professional. And it's exhausting to have to debunk all these, like, bad stereotypes that you had no control over when they were being created. So that's the end of my video, everyone. I just wanted to really break down the difference between the American culture, especially, or more specifically, African American culture, compared to African culture, because passport bros are, a shining example of just how different we are, because they want to go overseas or, to the motherland to get a wife, and they don't realize really what that entails. And I heard somebody make an excuse for Black males and saying, I think it was a pick me, like saying, well, they grew up without a male role model, or like a male example. But I don't think it's that hard to know how to be a good man. You really just have to be a good person and just do the right things. And I feel like that is the very opposite of what Black males in America want to do. They've shown time and time again, as Cynthia G would call them, treasonous. They are very treasonous, very disloyal, always gaslighting, always manipulating, always trying to find a way to get over. And they're just not good people at heart. Like, at the root of it all, overall, they're not good people. I'm not sure. Like, I usually, when I'm speaking about Black males, I'm usually speaking about the generations that are above Gen Z, like the older generations of Black males. I might be being, delusional right now, or in La La Land, or naive, but I do believe there's hope with Black males in the Gen Z and younger generations, because we are more open in talking about mental health and having those conversations. And then we're also, a lot of us are, as parents, especially, like the millennial generation, the Gen X generation of women, and some Gen Z, I guess. But I feel like, these generation of parents are teaching our children about mental health, and that it's okay to get therapy and get treatment, so that you can be a healthy individual all around, instead of cosplaying manhood. I know for me, I'm teaching, and I know other mothers that do this as well, like teaching our Black sons that you need to be a protector and a provider. No more of this, like, this 50-50 stuff. I don't know where that came from. I don't know why the passport bros or the incels or the manosphere or the red pillars are trying to make that a thing, it's never going to be a thing for me. Like I don't think I've ever dated anyone or married and did 50-50. Like I just never have done that. So that is why I just feel like passport bros are in for a rude awakening. I don't think that they are going to these other continents to even get married. So it's kind of almost weird to be having this conversation, like the women talking to the passport bros, because I don't think a lot of them are going anywhere for wives. I've never seen any of them actually come back with the wife, and they've been all over the world. So is more to me. Evidence has been shown that from videos, even from different countries that have actually banned or spoken out against the passport bros, they've called it more of sex tourism than anything else. So I would tell, other groups of women just to be careful when you're seeing these dusties coming to your land, because your continent, your homeland, because they're not. I don't think they're there for good reasons, and I mean it's really up to you. If you just want to have fun, or you're a working girl or whatever, that's all you, boo. I don't have any judgment on that, and I don't judge women for having their choice to do what they want to do with their bodies. But I just feel like, and I almost like didn't want to say anything because I'm like, I'm just so happy to be rid of the passport bros. But as a woman and a girl's girl, like someone who's always like having like this feeling of sisterhood to do the right thing, like I just feel like it's very difficult for me not to warn women in other countries, to let them know like these males do not like marriage, and the data doesn't lie, and they're very unlikely to be getting married to anyone, no matter what she does for him. It's never going to be good enough. And as the African women in the video have said, whatever these dusty bandits have to offer is never going to be good enough either. They don't have any money. So, good luck with that. And yeah, I mean, even if they had the money, which they usually won't, I feel like they're going to mistreat you. Like they're not going to be like the African men that were described in the video, as far as like being very loving and attentive and all that. Like I just don't feel like African American males, or even just really any males in general in America. People in America have gotten really nasty over the last few years. Like I would say, like since Trump has come into office, and I don't say blame. I don't feel like Trump is the only reason, but I feel like he basically lit a fire to something that was already like brewing beneath the surface. And so everybody's just letting it all hang out. Everyone's acting really ugly. I mean, when you have a president like that, that's cussing and saying all these crude things, like that shit is going to roll downhill like it always does. And now everybody feels like they can just say whatever they want to say and behave however they want to behave. And people are refusing to think for themselves and make good decisions. So our culture is a hot mess. Like America's culture is trash. And we have so many dating videos and marriage reality shows and all this BS. But marriage is funny because America does not value marriage. It does not value families. It does not value children. It doesn't even value their own citizens. And so it's really funny when people try to make marriage be more important than what it really is, even to the actual country where you're living. It's just not that important. It's a business to Americans, like to the American government. They see it as a business and they treat it as such, because if it wasn't a business, I don't know why the courthouse and the government is involved in the middle of your marriage, or having to be involved for you to get a divorce. Like, why do they need to be there for the beginning or and the end? Like, why is the courthouse, the whole government in the middle of it? Like, if it's just something you're doing with someone you love, and at minimum, you could say, okay, I'm going to go into a church, but even that shouldn't be a requirement. Like, it's just you being with someone you love. But because it's not so simplified, lets me know that the government is involved for a reason, because they're always going to make a penny off of their own citizens. And so that again tells me how much they don't value marriage. Because if they valued it, they would do a lot, they would move a lot differently. The government would create things and make things a lot different so that people can be just married to whoever they want to be married to. It shouldn't cost money. I shouldn't have to go to a courthouse. I shouldn't have to do the most to get divorced. I should be able to just leave that person and go to another person or whatever. But nope, they're all in the business, and then they want you to feel like this is something they really value. Yeah, you value it because it's helping your bottom line. So that's the end of the video. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you to all my subscribers. I really appreciate you. The old ones and the new ones. You all rock. And I will see you all in the next video.